Slowhands Rock Talk Show.
But thank you so much for coming on the podcast, making a little bit of time out of your evening to come on and speak to myself about all things music. Obviously, we had no technical issues whatsoever. It worked perfectly fine. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the questions and you can each answer for yourself. But we'll talk about yourselves, your relationship with music, and of course we will talk about the band as well. But before we get started, how is everybody actually doing today? Everybody good?
Yeah, doing well, thank you.
Yep, really good.
I'm good. Right, so the way I've got it on the screen, I've got Kate first. Let's see, I've got Kate, I've got Jane, I've got Nicola, and then I've got Katie. So we'll just go in that order so that we know who's talking first and who's talking last. So for each of you, I'll let you answer individually. So where were each of you brought up, and were you exposed to music from a young age? And if so, where did that music exposure come from? Was it like a parent or a sibling? So we'll start with Kate.
So I was brought up in Urban. I've always had like a great relationship with music. My parents were just always playing music in the house. There was never a day without it. They really influenced what I listened to when I was younger. And it's my love's only grown from there.
What sort of bands were they listening to?
Literally everything. 80s, 90s, just up to modern day music, literally anything at all. Rock, pop, indie, blues, anything.
So just you've got a fair amount of exposure then, like different styles.
Yes, a wide array of styles.
What about yourself, Jane?
Myself, yeah. So my dad's actually in a band himself. We plug Lonehead, check them out. So yeah, I've been exposed from a young age as well, going to see gigs, listening to a range of different music. And since watching him in a band, I've always wanted to be in a band myself. So it's been always a big part of growing up for us.
What instrument does your dad play?
He's bassist and lead singer. So. Right. And he's a guitar tutor as well, so that's kind of how I got into playing guitar at an early age and just grown a love from there. So,
right. What about yourself, Nicola?
Yeah, for me, my family were never really musical, to be honest, at all. Like, of course they liked music and things, but I always just remember I hated the music that my mum liked. I hated it so much with a passion.
And what was it?
It was all very like clubland. There was no real instruments, and I always just hated it. So I was so judgmental of her music taste. I was like, no. I've got older siblings. I think the first time I started like learning an instrument and got an interest in music was when my oldest sister, she had a guitar that she'd never played at all, but I was always very like curious about it. And so I ended up inheriting that guitar and then kind of learned from there. Me and Katie kind of started picking up and learning guitar together when we're about in first year or something like that. So yeah, kind of stemmed from there. But it was kind of out of the blue for me. I'm the first one to really get involved in music. So yeah.
And Katie, what about yourself? Where were you brought up?
For me, I was brought up in Irvine, and it was my dad that sort of influenced my love for music. He always used to play guitar. And then my papa, on my mum's side of the family, he was in a band and he played the accordion.
Right.
So that was exciting. And then I got my first guitar, I think was gifted to me when I was maybe, I want to say 12. And I learned with my papa. I played Jingle Bells on Christmas Day. And I played, I think it was Ellie Goulding, actually. It was the first 2 songs I learned on guitar.
So, everyone's getting a lot of musical exposure, apart from Nicola. What age were you all then when you discovered your own musical taste? So, a lot of the guests I get on, they'll be influenced similar to yourselves from parents, from other siblings that are playing music. But they always get to a point where they discover a band or an artist for themselves that kind of changes their direction. So when did you discover your own musical taste, something that you loved for yourself that was maybe different from what your parents were listening to? And who were some of the bands or artists that you initially discovered? So go with Kate first.
So I think probably a big one, someone that we'll probably mention several times, was Taylor Swift. When I was younger, I was listening to her all the time. She was just an absolute idol, you know. I just wanted to be just like her. I listened to all her albums. I was a massive fan. And that kind of became like my start into my own kind of music. No one else really listened to her in the house, and I was just a massive fan, you know.
Yeah. What about yourself, Jane? Apart from your dad?
Probably a lot, because my dad, again, it's pop rock music he makes and he listens to, and it's kind of similar for my mum and my sibling as well. But kind of something that kind of slightly different than that, a lot of fingerstyle acoustic guitarists such as John Butler, Ben Howard, really into them, and that kind of stemmed what kind of guitar style I kind of developed over the years. So it was a lot of fingerstyle. I went into like classical playing and stuff like that, and that's kind of what I'm most comfortable playing. And it's only really been since joining the marches that I've really delved into like playing electric guitar and lead guitar. But yeah, I'd kind of say that was where it kind of started to stem off from my parents, was when I started to get into that kind of acoustic fingerstyle stuff.
Yeah. What about yourself, Nicola?
Yeah, Kate took the words out my mouth. So for me, it was Taylor Swift as well. So my siblings weren't, my sisters, they weren't massively into Taylor Swift, but I remember my oldest sibling, Jenny, she had introduced me to the song 15 by Taylor Swift, and that was my first like introduction to her. And then she was everywhere after that, and I really ended up following her and absolutely love her. So that was kind of my main one. And then when I went into my teenage years, I was more intrigued by full bands, and
right.
Yeah, I was kind of intrigued by a kind of full band setup from there on. But yeah, my main thing was always I just hated fake music. I just wanted to real instruments, which is why I hated what my mum listened to so much.
What about yourself, Katie?
I'm just going to hop on the bandwagon. It was Taylor Swift, if I'm honest. I just loved her since the moment I heard her. My first CD that I had was Fearless. So from there on, it just grew. I absolutely loved her. And then again with Nicola, with ourselves growing up together as well, it became sort of in secondary school, I'd say we were focused on the kind of band orientated sound. Yep. We used to go up to Glasgow all the time and try and meet bands, and yeah, so that's when that grew. But at first it was Taylor Swift.
It's funny, I've got a co-host that sometimes comes on, and he took his daughter to see Taylor Swift. She played Glasgow, was it? I don't know if it was the start of the year or last year.
Edinburgh last year,
yeah.
And his favourite band is Iron Maiden, so completely opposite. but he took his daughter along, and he was brave enough to admit after that he did actually quite enjoy it. He couldn't not enjoy it, even though it wasn't really his style of music.
Yeah.
But give us a laugh then for each of you. What was the first professional concert that you ever attended, and where was it?
So, believe it or not, the first ever concert I went to was actually Taylor Swift last year. The Eras Tour, yeah, that was the first one. I've been to many, many more since, but yeah, she was my first ever concert, and honestly, it was absolutely amazing.
What about yourself, Jane?
JLS, I don't know if you remember them.
That's mine as well. JLS is my first one.
I can't remember where. Probably it might have been the same one you went to, Nick. I'm not too sure.
So the one that I went to was in the SECC. So the Hydro didn't exist yet. It was in the SECC. So
mine was outside somewhere. I can't remember where, but I remember it being very good.
And Kate?
Mine was El Divo.
Right, okay.
With my mum, I went to see El Divo. It was great. I think it was an SECC too.
Yeah. It's funny though, because almost regardless of the style of music, I do think everybody should go and see a live concert at some point. It doesn't matter who the artist is, but there's something magical about going to a concert when you've got a crowd of people all supporting the one person that's on stage, and there's something magical about it that it's hard to describe unless you're actually there in the crowd. I think everybody should do it at least once in their life. I find it weird when someone hasn't been to a concert because it's so important. Like, music is important to myself and obviously thousands of others. But for each of you, so Kate, you're on drums. Why the drums? Why not bass guitar or just normal guitar, vocals? What was it that made you pick up the drumsticks?
So it was actually my dad. He got me an electric drum kit for Christmas, just as something, and I absolutely loved it. I was just like obsessed with it. And then very quickly after that, he got me drum lessons. I had my own actual drum kit. Sadly for everyone in the house, I had to put up with all the noise. And my love for it is only grew. I only started 3 years ago. So it just went really, really quickly, and I'm just absolutely obsessed.
You think your dad was hoping that you didn't like it so that he could take it?
I think it maybe could have been that. There has been a couple of times I've taught him a few things on the kit.
Yeah. So
it might be that as well. But no, he's definitely my biggest fan. He comes to all the gigs. He's my roadie. He brings the kit, and helps me set up. So it is all down to him.
I hope you pay him.
Experience.
Exactly. He gets to come backstage to all the venues we play, so
it'll be like roadie stroke security.
Yeah, exactly. I'll get him the shades and everything for the security, yeah.
Jane, you've already said it was your dad, although he's a bass player. There was a guitar sitting there.
Yeah, well, he's a guitar tutor, so I used to on a Friday lunchtime when I was in primary school, that would be our guitar lesson slot, so I'd go home for lunch and have a guitar lesson with him, and it just kind of went on from there, and I've been obsessed with it since.
Yeah. Nicola, bass guitar. Why the bass guitar? Why not drums or something else?
Yeah, well, I actually started off playing guitar, so I played guitar since I was about 12 or 13, and I kind of fell into bass, very similar to Kate. I've not been doing it for long. I literally started learning the bass because Katie wanted to form a band, and we needed a bassist. So,
and was that?
Sorry?
It's as simple as that.
It's as simple as that, and here I am, and I wouldn't go back, to be honest, so I enjoy it.
Katie, you're on vocals and rhythm guitar, is that correct?
Yeah.
So which one came first for you?
Definitely singing. I could sing before I could speak, really.
Yeah.
I used to sing along with the telly from a really young age. My mum used to tell me it was the minute I could speak, I was singing. So that definitely came first.
And what made you then want to pick up the rhythm guitar and not just be a standalone singer?
I always felt like when I was growing up, I used to listen to my dad playing every night on the guitar, and then I guess I just kind of fell in love with it from there. Again, my dad and my mum used to force the pencil into my right hand when I was at nursery because they knew that I'd probably want to play guitar when I was older, and you don't get as much choice in left-handed as you do right-handed. So, I think it was just always in the cards for me, to be honest.
For each of you, thinking about your actual instrument, who are your influences for your actual instrument? Who are you looking up to when you're playing?
So for me, it's just a bunch of different people. Probably first of all my drum tutor, because she taught me everything that I know, and she's a massive inspiration. Also being a female, we're lacking female drummers, so she's a massive inspiration. When it comes to music, to be honest, literally every song I listen to, I sit and pick apart the drums and listen. Oh, I like this and I like that, and I take my inspiration from loads of different songs. Yeah.
What about yourself, Jane? Do you have influence when it comes to lead guitar playing?
Lead guitar playing, I used to do a lot of like classic kind of rock covers, like Thin Lizzy covers and things. Right. Nowadays it's kind of a range of different stuff because we do kind of more pop rock stuff. It's less kind of lead guitarist and more kind of riffs and stuff. I was playing the new Wet Leg one today, the Catch These Fists I think it's called, and it's quite a good riff, but it's kind of a range of different things. I've kind of went from classic rock kind of lead stuff to trying to find more poppy kind of covers, but same as Kate, just a range of different artists.
And Nicola, for bass playing, do you have any influences for the bass guitar?
So I wouldn't say like I have specific influences, but what I will say is bringing up Jane's dad, and she's going to cringe so much, but he actually has been so helpful, like for me, being, because I kind of fell into it and I haven't actually been playing that long, and everything's gone quite 0 to 100 for us quite quick. It's been really helpful to have him there when we're, I suppose, creating our own sound, because he has a really good insight towards what will sound good when we're making our own music and things. So that's actually been really, really helpful.
Yeah. And what about yourself, Katie, for singing and for guitar playing?
Oh, my mind's went blank. I feel Taylor Swift again is probably a strong one. I love Fleetwood Mac, Stevie Nicks.
Yeah.
Take a lot of inspiration from her, I would say. Subconsciously at first, and then the more I started looking into her, I kind of continued with that influence.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's funny because I was listening to the band earlier, and I'd looked at a few interviews that you have done with other places, and there's obviously the obvious influences, like Fleetwood Mac was mentioned, like the Cranberries, like that kind of thing. But even like, see your new song, Come Back Around. So I'm hearing like Red Hot Chili Peppers and like Pearl Jam, like early 90s grunge kind of bands. There's like that kind of sound coming through as well. But I'm a guitarist first, so my ear is automatically drawn to what Jane is playing because guitar is my thing. And you do something, Jane, that I'm glad that you do it, because some people don't, and it really, really annoys me. What you're playing on the guitar, you're playing it for the song, so you're not being like wanting the spotlight. Like, look at me. Like, you were. I've seen a couple of clips of you playing even on Instagram, and you're not shy to just play like maybe one or two notes because that's what makes the song sound better, rather than just trying to be fancy for the sake of being fancy. Because it does drive me up the wall sometimes when it's you've got a band of 4 people and they're all trying to outdo each other. They don't get it that it's a unit. It's, you know, everybody's working together to make it the overall sound better. So I'm glad, Jane, that the way you're playing actually like makes the song sound better. That's just from a guitarist point of view.
No, thank you, appreciate that. I think it's kind of the way we sometimes write the songs as well that helps that, because we all kind of write songs in different ways. But for me, I always write it like I start with the guitar part. Yeah. And then I kind of base the vocal line off of what I'm playing on guitar, so they all kind of just automatically seem to sync together quite well, and I think that kind of makes it work. But
so how did the marches come together? How did it start? I'll let anybody go for that.
I think it kind of started with Katie, wasn't it? Katie and Nicola together.
Yeah.
Probably to start that one off.
Yeah, I would say so. I think me and Nicola always grew up, oh God, we would go into talent shows, and any excuse we could to perform and sing, we would. It started off with us playing guitar together, and both playing acoustic guitar, and we experimented with vocals, harmonies and things like that. And then from there, obviously, I don't know if Nicola, if you want to take the next part or...
Well, from there we decided we wanted to start a band, quite simply, and I got forced into learning the bass, which I'm grateful for now. But yeah, from there, a couple of our friends from school, we had initially started off jamming together very briefly, but it was never anything serious. And then we brought Jane on board when we wanted to start taking things a bit more seriously. And then Kate was the last member to join the band, which was a year ago now. So we've kind of had our final lineup for the last year, and it has actually just been, as I say, it was full steam ahead from there. Like, the opportunity just came flying in, and it's been really fun. So yeah.
Jane, you kind of mentioned this briefly, but what is the band's songwriting process? So, for example, does someone write the skeleton of a song and bring it to the others, or do you all contribute, or is it different for each song? Do you have a songwriting process?
It's kind of different for each song. I mean, In Comes the Fear, our first release, was one that Katie kind of had a demo for ready, and then we obviously made tweaks and changes from there.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like the song was kind of finished, similar to kind of Talking Too Much and Come Back Around, which I had demos for, and we all kind of changed the parts and stuff. But a lot of our more recent stuff has been quite collaborative, and we've kind of done a lot in the room. We've got a song that we just wrote called Don't Fool Me Twice. We've played live a couple times, and that was very kind of, Katie started the song off, and then we kind of added parts, and it's kind of been quite collaborative, which is probably my favourite way to do it. I think we end up with better songs that way, because everyone can write their own parts from scratch. And I think that's probably how we'll do it moving forward.
Just a very quick message to say thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any future videos, like and leave a comment. Let me know what you think of the episode and give me some suggestions on who I should interview in the future. Back to the video. What about the lyrics? Are the lyrics purely coming from Katie, or is that a collaborative thing as well?
It's kind of different for each song, I would say. Would you say the same? I think Feel It All, I'd say about 70% I wrote, and then there was a second verse that we kind of wrote together. A lot of the songs that Katie, I would say, I'm talking for you, Katie, but I think a lot of the songs you write, the lyrics are kind of done because you write in a different way than I would. For me, it's not, I like to write the music more than the lyrics, but I think for Katie it's slightly different.
Yeah.
Right. And when you're writing the music, are you writing like instrumentals with a vocal melody in mind?
No, it's always the last part that I really think about, to be honest. I like writing the music, and then I'll kind of do like a lead line over the demo, and then that usually ends up being the vocal line of some sort. But I think, Katie, you kind of start with strumming a guitar, like kind of classic singer-songwriter kind of style of writing.
Yeah, I normally strum a few chords and then have a kind of vocal melody in mind. I'll try and work the chords around the vocal melody, but sometimes I don't even write it as a song at first. Sometimes I'll write it as like a poem. It's not necessarily got a melody, but it's got more of a rhythm, if that makes sense.
Here's a question as well then. So if I was to take the lyrics separate and just read the lyrics without the music or that, would it make sense to me? Would it be obvious what you were singing about, or do you write in that sense, or do you write a little bit more vague that if 10 people read them, 10 people might take something different away from them?
Well, yeah, that's it. I feel like that's naturally the kind of way I would write. It's not necessary. A lot of my songs, like if I'm bringing one into the band, I feel like it's maybe got a story behind it, but that story isn't so obvious in the lyrics. I feel like it's more sort of vague, and I like people to be able to take away their own meaning from the lyrics.
It's an interesting one because it can then change over time. So what it initially came from, it might change even in your own mind.
Yeah.
You play it as well as it evolves. But with the band recording then, does the band have a preferred way to record the music? Do you record live, for example, or do you start with Kate on drums and sort of build it from there? What's the band's preferred way to record music?
Yeah, so kind of recently we've been doing bass and drums together as like the kind of basis of it, and then we would record the guitar parts and sometimes like just a brief vocal before Katie would do the full final vocal take, although it does usually literally take her one attempt, to be fair. She'll take wonder, so yeah.
Here's an interesting question, and some people get stuck on it, but what makes the band work? And I don't mean in terms of success, but what makes the Marches as a band work? Does the band have a leader? And I don't mean like a dictator, someone telling everyone else what to do, but do you think does the band need to have a leader, someone sort of steering the ship?
No, so I don't think that at all. Personally, for me, I think it works really well because, you know, we're all best pals. Like, we're friends first. We do this because we want to play with each other and we want to just enjoy, you know, gigging, and we do it for the fun of it. And I think that kind of shows through like our performances and our songs that we just love what we do.
Yeah. I mean, myself and Kate were speaking earlier when everyone was trying to connect, and that's what we were saying, that there isn't a right or a wrong answer. So you ask some bands, and some bands 100% will say, we need a band leader, someone steering the ship, everybody else gets behind them, and they're happy to kind of let that one person guide it. On the flip side, I've got bands like yourself that have just said, no, I don't think that's the best way. For our band, everybody is important. Everybody brings something different to it, and that's what makes the band work. There's not a right or a wrong answer. It's just interesting to see how different bands work, basically. But see, when it comes to playing live, when did you play your first gig as a band?
So that was it the 5th of
I think so.
July last year.
Right.
So very, very soon after Kate joined, actually, we done, I think it was actually less than a week, Kate. We done our
less than a week.
night. Just because we wanted some experience performing in front of an audience and seeing how our songs would go down. And that, I think it was the night after that, we got our first gig offer, and it was for King Tut's, and we just felt we could not turn that down. So we were like, right, we're doing everything we can to make sure we're ready for this. And that was the day we released our first single as well. So overall, it was a really exciting day for us.
So a lot of you have said that you haven't been playing for too long. Was that first gig the first gig for all of you, as in the first time properly performing in front of people as a band? Or did any of you play in a band previously?
I'd not been in a band previously, but I had done small kind of acoustic stuff myself, just doing fingerstyle guitar, not singing. I think, Katie, you had quite a lot of gigging experience before.
Yeah, I'd done some acoustic gigs, and I'd done some kind of full band gigs, but at that point I didn't really have much knowledge of what it took for that to go well. There was a lot of help that I had at the time, a lot of guidance. So I think with obviously the marches and having that first gig together, it was like a learning experience for us all. I think it's not something that I was sort of hyper aware of, and all the kind of things that you have to know. You want this through your wedge, you want this through that. I honestly had no idea. So I think that was the first stepping stone to really learning about the process and what goes on behind it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing for 30 years. I've still not got a clue what I'm doing, but get away with a lot by just looking confident.
Yeah, that's it.
But for each of you then, you have done writing and recording, and on the flip side, you have also done performing live. For each of you, if you had to pick just one to do for the rest of your life, writing and recording songs or only playing live, which one would you go with? Katie, we'll start with you. Or Kate, sorry.
Honestly, I think it would have to be gigging live. It's just so much fun. It's just the best night out. It's just amazing having so many people there. It's like a massive party every time. I think it's like my favourite thing to do. It has to be playing live.
What if I was to change it and say that you'll get paid the same amount of money regardless of which one you pick for the rest of your life? Would it still be performing live?
Oh yeah, it would still be performing live. Absolutely.
What about yourself, Jane?
Oh, it's tricky. I think, even though I love gigging, I think it would need to be recording. Because I love it when we have like an all-day recording and we just go in for like 8-9 hours and it's a whole like process. I just love that. It's a tough choice though.
Yeah. Nicola?
I love both as well. That's such a hard question. But I think I'm probably leaning towards where Jane's going. I think recording. I think it's the actual satisfaction of leaving with the finished product and like building it all up. And I think because when we record, we do go in with a finished product, but it's never the finished product we end up leaving with. It always changes so much. So because it's so collaborative and we add things, and to be honest, our songs always grow arms and legs when we go in and record, but that's like the best part for me. So that would probably be just tip the gig into the post.
What about yourself, Katie?
As hard as it is, I would have to agree. I think the recording aspect of things, it's just, as Nicola said, it does grow arms and legs when we're in the room and we get to bounce ideas off each other, and we always do end up with a product that we love, but in some cases that is really different to the ideas that we brought into the room.
Yeah.
But it's tough because obviously the feeling of gigging is just amazing.
Again, there's not a right or a wrong answer, but I would say when I've asked that question, most people have actually said probably performing live. But me personally, I think as much as that's good fun, I think I would pick the studio, because it's strange. There's a lot of people don't like the studio. They do the recording studio in order to do the gigs, but I think there's something really nice about it. Depends if you're a songwriter or not, I think, but there's something nice about creating something from nothing. And I think it would probably drive me mad if I had a song idea in my head that I could never record. But then I suppose you could play it live, so I don't know. I don't know. But we're obviously we're halfway through 2025. So what is the plans for the rest of the year for the band?
Yeah, we've got a lot on, haven't we?
Yeah.
So
it's hard to know where to start because there's so many.
hard to know what to even talk about and give away. Just don't want to give away all of our secrets.
This is the place to tell everything.
So, yeah, we have got a lot on, to be fair. We're playing the next on the list. I really want to say it, but I don't know if I'm able to.
I think you could do the next one, yeah.
The
I
next
think you
one's
can.
fine. Yeah, so our next gig is in Edinburgh for Edinburgh Pride, so we're headlining the community stage there. And then the next one after that is a big one, which I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about yet, but it's a big festival that we're really, really excited about. I don't want to get in trouble by talking about it because I don't know.
Well, you've got some big gigs coming up, and you're also, are you in the middle of recording an album?
So, not an album, but we are in the middle of recording we have started and we're in the middle of recording our next couple of releases. So I think they'll be released towards the end of the year, all going well. We're hoping to get some kind of physical copies of them out as well, which will be the first time we've gone down that route. So we're really excited about that.
I'd asked Kate at the start, is it all digital, or are you going old school and have something that you can actually hold in your hands and say, this is mine, I created this? So a bit of both. A bit of both.
That's the kind of next steps. Rather than staying all digital, I think we're going for something that will last a little bit longer and tangible. So really excited.
Cool. So before we finish up, I like to ask some fun questions. We've obviously been quite technical with our chit chat for any musicians that are watching, but I like to ask some fun questions before we finish up. So I'll ask the questions. We'll just go round each person. You can give me the answer that pops into your head. And so, imagine you could go back in time, anywhere in the world, big gig, small gig. I'll let you be the one to decide. What is the one concert that you wish that you could have attended? That was Kate.
The thing I can think of was probably like Live Aid.
Live Aid?
You see the videos of that and you think, wow, for the time that was amazing. I think that would have been like an amazing day out.
I think
that's the first one I can think of.
That's probably been the most popular answer on the podcast, because I've asked every single guest this, and I think Live Aid's the one that's came up the most. I don't think it would have been that good if you were at the very back, but definitely if you were at the front. What about yourself, Jane?
Oh, there's so many. I feel like this is one of the questions I'm going to go off this call and be like, oh, I should have said that, because there's so many that are going through my head. But I think probably a live Thin Lizzy gig, just because I've listened to them so much growing up. I've done so many of their covers. Yeah, I think it would need to be that.
Yeah. Nicola?
For me, it's not a specific gig, but the number one person I wish I would have seen is David Bowie. I just wish I'd seen him live, and that's I would absolutely have loved it. So yeah, that's my answer.
I just had Bobby from Still Game on the podcast because he's a massive David Bowie fan. So he must have spoke about David Bowie for about an hour.
I absolutely loved him. He's amazing.
What about yourself, Katie?
There's a lot that springs to mind, but actually the first one that sprung to my mind was Queen. I'd love to go to a live Queen gig.
Yeah, that would have been cool. Right, as you know, thousands and thousands of great songs have been written and recorded across the years by different artists, people other than Taylor Swift. If you could be a fly in the wall, if you could go into the recording studio and witness any song being recorded, what's the one song you would like to have watched the band record it in the studio? Start with Kate.
Going from what Katie said about Queen, I think Bohemian Rhapsody would have been an amazing one to watch being recorded. I think we've probably all seen the film, and that was it's such a good film. But to be a fly on the wall back then, wow, that would have been amazing.
I think you would have just been like, what the hell are we actually making here? Because it's clear,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's obviously recorded in parts, but if you didn't know what the final product was going to sound like, you'd just think the guy was mad. But he clearly knew what he was doing. What about yourself, Jane? One song that you could witness being recorded?
There's so many again. I was kind of toying between Led Zeppelin, because there's so many songs, there's so many experimental parts. You're kind of I wonder how they went about doing that.
Yep.
But I think if I had to pick one, actually, I think I'd do Love and Anger, Kate Bush, just because it's probably one of my top songs of all time, so it would be good to sit in and see that, I guess.
Okay. Nicola?
Mine, the first one that came to mind is Silver Springs, Fleetwood Mac. I'd just love to feel the tension in the room.
Right, okay.
I love that.
Katie?
For me, actually, it's Fleetwood Mac as well. It's The Chain. I would love to have seen how that one came together.
Cool. Fine. For each of you, does the perfect album start to finish exist, and if so, what is the album?
It's a really difficult one, because
there might not be an answer to it, but do you think the perfect album exists?
I can't say. I can't think off the top of my head. I can't pick one. It's just so much to choose from.
Jane, what about yourself?
I don't know if it's a perfect album, because there's a couple other songs I could miss, but probably my favourite band right now is Everything. So their first album, I'll always go back and listen to it. It's always my top Spotify listen of the year and all that, so I'd probably say that one.
Oh, Nicola?
Yeah, I do. And it's going back to Fleetwood Mac again, it's Rumours. There's not a single song on that album that I would ever skip. I just think they're all unbelievable. I absolutely love that album.
Yeah. And Katie?
Oh, it's so tricky. I don't know.
Could ask you the same question tomorrow and the next day, and you might change your answer each day. But for today, does a perfect album exist for you?
Oh. My mind's went blank, but there was a phase, it's a time in my life I was looking at concept albums and how one song connects to the next.
Yeah.
So I'd have to say that sort of nature of albums, definitely something I would say is my perfect album, my ideal album.
Cool. And then last question for each of you. Mount Rushmore, for today at least, because again the answer could change each day. Who are the 4 bands or musicians for yourself that you just see as perfection? So starting with Kate.
That's a really difficult one as well. Right now, my favourites are probably, again, sorry to say it, Taylor Swift. Sabrina Carpenter, Chapel Roan, going to see her in Edinburgh, and I'm absolutely buzzing for that. That's amazing. If I had to pick one more, I love the Foo Fighters as well. Right,
okay, that's fine. Jane, what about yourself?
Everything, Kate Bush, Thin Lizzy, and probably I'm going to say, oh God, there's so many. Yeah, I'll go for Joni Mitchell as well.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Nicola?
Struggle to think of my 4th, but again, it has to be Taylor Swift because of how I've loved her since I was literally a child, and I still do. David Bowie again, Fleetwood Mac, 100%. I don't know if I could name a third. I don't know if anyone
You can pick
The marches.
yourself.
The marches, yeah. Definitely.
Katie, what's your ones?
For me, Fleetwood Mac comes to mind. First one that came to mind, Simon and Garfunkel.
Right.
Absolutely adore. David Bowie is definitely one. And that last one. Last Dinner Party I really like right now. To be fair, I'm really a huge fan of them.
I love that question because, again, I've asked that to every guest that's came on, and you get a different answer every single time. And it's not always the obvious choice. So if you're like a rock band, you might not pick 4 rock artists. You know, everybody's influenced by different people, whether it be the lyrics, the music, you know, the overall package. It's an interesting one, but no, that's some good answers there. But thank you so much for coming on to the podcast, speaking to myself, answering all my silly questions. If anybody's wanting to follow the band, you guys are on social media, so they can give you a follow. You've got songs available for streaming and download, so definitely check that out as well. And obviously check out your social media for up-and-coming gigs, the top secret ones that you're not letting me know about. Because when they are released, they'll be wanting to get tickets for them. Come along and support you. And I do wish you all the continued success in the future, and I'll maybe see you at a gig as well at some point down the line.
Amazing. Well, thank you for having us on.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks so much.